What's it gonna be? Something Christmas? Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, October the 19th, 2020, vlog number 190, and it's 222 days of COVID isolation. Room 222. Well, if you're as old as me, you probably know what that reference is to, and if you're not, never mind. Okay, so in the teaser, you saw me doing some embroidery of some wings for my angels, and so I'm going to show you what those wings went through to. This is my latest Christmas angel. Now this is a really large one, as you can see. It stands a good foot high, and it is actually a tree topper, and I'm not using it as a tree topper. Now, I made one of these a year ago at Christmas time, and I think I did try it on my tree as a topper, but my tree is a small tree. I don't put up the big tree anymore, and so I think this just ended up being a ornament or a decoration around the house, and they're really quite nice. Now, they're very involved to make. This is not something you sit down and do in an hour. It takes several hours, and there's some additional sewing you have to do, but the end product is well worth the time, I think. Now, why did I make this one? Well, I got to give some gifts at Christmas. Well, I don't have to, but I'm going to. And I want to give something to our neighbors next door. You've heard me talk about them before, how they usually bring us over some Christmas baking every year. And last year I kind of surprised them by giving them a table runner and some napkins, which, yeah, probably made them feel guilty. That wasn't my intent. You know, she can bake, and it was lovely to get her baking. I can sew. So, you know, it's a fair trade-off as far as I'm concerned. But I have made this for the next door neighbors because every year at Christmas they put these, well, I call them the creepy dolls. We talked about this on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday. And the creepy dolls are basically these little figures. I think they're supposed to be children in sort of Edwardian or Victorian style holding a candle, and they're in the window. But at night, they kind of spook me out. I don't know why. I know they're not intended to be that way. And but anyways, I got thinking, well, they probably really like that kind of thing. So I thought maybe this would be an appropriate gift to give them. So I'm going to have to find a decent box for this and to lay it all into it. And you can put a light up underneath in here, a little LED light or a little battery operated tea light, and it gives off a nice soft glow. And they're very nice. They're very nice. But as I said, they are very involved when you're making them. This is all organza on the skirt. And they're not hard to make. Well, especially if you've done this kind of thing before. They're very easy to make, but they are very time consuming. But anyways, I think I'm going to make another one to give to my hairdresser as well. Now, I made some other angels that are smaller than this that I was thinking of giving to her, like sort of as a set. But I'm thinking now maybe I'll give her one of these. And who knows, maybe I'll make a third one. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. So that took up a fair bit of time to do that. So what else have I been working on? Okay, I did do, while this was stitching out, the angel was stitching out, I bought a pattern for a Dresden style quilt. Not a Christmas quilt, just a quilt. I really liked the pattern, and so I thought, yeah, I'll get one of those. I happen to have a Dresden template ruler, because you need that really to make a Dresden. Well, you probably don't really need it, but it makes your life so much easier if you have it. Now, I love the look of Dresden, and you're probably saying, what's a Dresden? Well, I'm going to show you here in a minute, but essentially it is a little pointy spear, and when you put a whole bunch of them together, they look like a flower or something like that. They look very complicated to make, so I thought, okay, I've got some leftover scraps of Christmas fabric. Maybe I'll make a few of these as practice with those scraps, and maybe if it turns out okay, I can make them into like a placemat or something like that. So I did just that, and this is what I ended up with. Oops, knocked over the angel. Get her wings out of there. Okay, this is what I ended up with. This is a table topper. Now, it started out as going to be a placemat, but I got a little carried away and it got a little too big for a placemat, so now it's a table topper. The Dresdens are those pointy bits in the center that are all going around in a circle. And I'll just put this up a little closer so you can get the idea. They are not difficult to make, I found. In fact, they're very easy to make, and that's a good thing because this quilt pattern I have takes a lot of them. But now that I've done it once, I know how to do it. Now the other thing, as I decided to turn this into a table topper, you'll see some stitching lines. That's quilting, and that's ruler quilting. I'm getting a little better at ruler quilting, at least in straight line format. It's not perfect by any means, but then again, who's going to notice it? So this serves several purposes. One, it helped me practice making Dresdens. Two, it helped me practice ruler foot quilting, and I did mitered corners up here on the outside border. Now I've done mitered corners a couple of times before and on bigger pieces, but it's one of those things you have to go back and think about again when you do them. They are not hard, depending on how big the piece is. On a piece this size, they're pretty easy. On a queen size quilt, a little bit more cumbersome, but nevertheless, I do like the look of a mitered corner. It just finishes off a piece very nicely. So I did that. Here's the back. You might be able to see the quilting a little bit better here on the back. Well, or maybe not. But yeah, it's just a one-off. This could be a gift. It's a potential gift. Or I may just hang on to it for myself. Now the centerpiece that's here, that is a freestanding lace snowflake done in silver. And I didn't sew it on. I could have appliqued it on. Instead, I just cheated out and did it with fabric tack, which supposedly will stand up to a wash. Not that I think that this will ever get washed, but just in case, it's supposed to do that. So that was something that gave me a little practice and created a practical product afterwards. Now, the other thing I've been working on involves embroidery as well, are napkins. Now, originally, I'm going to show you here, this is a double-sided napkin. So that's in the corner, and this is the back. And I originally bought this fabric because it was sort of a Christmassy fabric in a way, but then again, it's more winter, late fall. So I decided, with the fabric I used on the front, which goes with it, that I would do sort of a fall leaf motif in the corner. And so the idea here is I love to fold my napkins from the center and put them in glasses. And so, you know, this kind of effect. Or you put a napkin ring around it. So I finished them off on my serger. So there is a nice rolled hem. And when I was picking out my colors on the serger, I mixed a dark thread and a light thread because the back of this is a little darker. So I didn't want anything too light on that side, and I didn't want anything too dark on this side. So actually I got them in the right spots in my serger, and away they went. So I need to press this one again. So I'm going to make another 3 of these, so there'll be a set of 4. And if I have any of this fabric left over, and I'm not sure if I will, I want to make sort of a coordinating table runner to go with them. And this becomes a potential gift as well. I say potential gifts because I don't know, I don't give gifts like regular gifts for Christmas. In my family, we don't exchange gifts anymore. There's not much I can make for my mother. I can't even get them to her at this point in the nursing home because they're not really accepting anything to come in, all because of the COVID thing. So I don't know. Want a gift? And you know, I have thought of having a little contest like so many YouTube channels do, you know, and sending out something to a winner. There's one problem with that. You know, I'm cheap. My kind of things that I make, to send them out in the mail, there's a lot of problems with that. First of all, you got to pack them well, like something like the angel. That would have to be packed really well so it wouldn't get crushed. That means a fairly large box, lots of soft stuffing to protect it. And in our mail system here in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same in other places of the world, by the time you're done shipping it, it's 3 times the cost of what of the value of the item you're sending, and that's even within our own country too. It's very, very expensive, our mail system here. So for some reason, I don't know why, we pay enough taxes, but anyway, so that's why I don't do that kind of thing. And I have thought about it. I've even thought about opening up an Etsy store or something like that. But, I've heard bad things about Etsy, in that they take a lot of the money that you make from it. And, then it becomes a business, and I'm retired. I don't need to have a business. That's when you start making things like this and it becomes your business, it stops being fun. And I want the fun. So I'm not sending anything out. I'm not having a contest. Simple as that. Okay. All right. So where's my notes here? So those are the things I've been working on, and I'm going to continue working on these things. I have other things too that I'm working on. There's always projects, as you know. So that takes us to YouTube Channel of the Week. Now, this is a fellow quilter machine embroiderer. He lives in the Netherlands. He is an American, but he relocated, I don't know, sometime in his life to the Netherlands. And Rob and I are friends virtually because we both belong to the Quilter's Way, and that's where we have met. And Rob's very knowledgeable about the world of quilting. He has many, many years of experience. He's very knowledgeable about sewing machines because he has many, many of those, and he's very knowledgeable about machine embroidery. So I review his YouTube channel here. This week's YouTube channel is by a friend of mine that I know through the internet, and his name is Jean Robert Hunter-Deuling. And Rob lives in the Netherlands, but he is an American. And he's been quilting for many, many, many years, and his machine of choice is a Bernina. So his YouTube channel features a lot of the things that he makes with his Bernina machine, and also how to use your Bernina machine. So if you have a Bernina machine, you may want to check him out for some tips and tricks and some very helpful information. He also does a lot of machine embroidery, which is really beautiful, especially his lace making. So if you're interested in machine lace making, again, will want to check out Rob's site. So everything Bernina, go to Hunter-Deuling Designs. So you can check out Rob's YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes below. The link to Stephen and Walter Live is there as well. Our topic this week was one suggested by Jeannie, one of our regular subscribers, who thought we should talk about bucket lists. And so we did that. We never once said the COVID word. And we're trying very hard, as you know, on Stephen and Walter Live, not to talk about politics and COVID. And I mean, right now, the politics issue, especially with the American election coming up, is I'm just dying to talk about it. But no, enough is enough. Okay, we'll just hold back on that for a while. Can't promise that every Stephen and Walter Live will be minus COVID talk or politic talk, but we're trying to. And really, it depends on you, the viewers that subscribe to us. We need topics. You hear me pleading for topics every week. I'm serious. Jeannie gave us the last topic. The topic for that was given by another viewer, and I'm hoping to get more topics for discussion from the people who watch us on a regular basis. So don't be shy. Even a glimmer of an idea, I can run with that. So just drop it in the show notes below or send me an email with a suggestion, and we'll see how that works out. Okay, other links. There is a link to the book of the week as well, so we'll come to that in a minute. But now it takes us to what's pissing me off. Well, this is kind of part 2 of my discussion last week. Last week I talked about how frustrating it has been to try and get a flu shot. And as you know, those of us that live here in Canada get free flu shots, and this is the time of the year when they come out, and you go to your local drugstore, basically, in our case Shoppers Drug Mart, which is a huge chain in Canada, You go in and you fill out a form and you get a shot and bye-bye. That's the way it's been done in previous years. Well, this year they've changed it all, and I did mention some of the changes. One of the changes is that you now can fill out the form online in advance, so when you get to the store, you give them a code and they put it in and presto bingo, everything's so automated and it just goes along really well and you're in, you're out. You'd think. Not the reality. Okay, I did also mention last week that we're having trouble getting the flu shot because the Shoppers Drug Marts are running out of flu shots. So I phoned them every day last week to find out, do you have the flu shot in? No. All right, when are you getting them in? We are not sure. Okay, the last time I phoned them up, I asked them, okay, same thing, they were out, when are you getting them in? And the girl says, we don't think they're coming in now until the end of October. Okay, so that saves me phoning you every day. Also, there is an app for their drugstore chain online that you can click into, and it will set up a notification system for you. It will send you a text message or an email when the store that you've put in that you want to get your flu shot done at, it will notify you that the flu shots are in. So Saturday morning, Walter got the notification on his phone. For some reason, I didn't get a notification, but he did. So I said to him, okay, let's go. Off we trot to the Shoppers Drug Mart. Of course, though, before we went, we had to fill out our form. Now, I'd already filled out my form, but the code they give you is only good for 1 week, and when you know it, it ran out on Friday. The flu shots were in on Saturday. So I had to fill out the form again online. It's not really a big deal to fill it out, but they ask you every question except what color your underwear is that day. And I'm sure if they thought about it, they would have asked that too. So we got that filled out. We had our codes. Off we go. We get to the Shoppers Drug Mart, and it was a reasonably nice day on Saturday, and good thing it was, because there's a lineup outside of the store. Not very long, only about 4 people ahead of us or so. But when we got there, there's an employee from the store saying, are you here for a flu shot? And we said, yes, we are. He said, okay, it's pretty full inside. We're just letting people in gradually as the lineup or whatever at the other end where they're giving the shots, starts to peter down. So, okay, fine. We stood in the line. Well, meanwhile, there's an older couple in front of us, and they've got out their cell phone, and he's trying to figure out how to use the online form. And he's trying to put in his health card number, because here in Ontario, we all have health cards, and whenever time you go into a doctor's office, you go wherever you're going to have medical treatment of some sort, you have to show your health card. It's part of our system here, because we have sort of universal health care, so that's how we get most of our stuff for free. It's not really free. Our taxes pay for it, but that's what we have to do. We have to show our health card. So fine. So he's trying to put in his health card number, and he's saying to his wife, well, it won't take it. It's invalid. So the employee that was outside getting people in the lineup came over and asked if she could give him a hand, which was nice of her. And he tells her what the problem is. Well, that's as far as her help went. Oh, I don't know how to use the app. Oh, I don't know what's wrong. Now, I was tempted to say to the guy, are you putting in the hyphens between each part? It's got about a 30,000 piece number for this thing, and there's hyphens all over, and you never know. There's nothing on there that says no hyphens, or be sure to put in the hyphens. Also, at the end of our health card number, there's a couple of letters. I have no idea what those mean, but sometimes you're supposed to put those in on certain things. Sometimes you don't have to. It didn't tell you that. Of course, it didn't tell you that. So I was going to say to the gentleman, maybe try it. Are you putting in the hyphens? If so, try without the hyphens. Are you putting the letters at the end of it in? Or try it without. I don't know. When I put my number in, I didn't put in the hyphens, and I did put in the letters, and it worked fine. And Walter couldn't remember what he did. So that may not have been his problem. There could have been other problems. And that's why I didn't offer him any help, because I'm thinking I've offered help before to people that are having problems with something that I didn't have any problems with, so I figured it's really simple. And it turns out, no, it's not very simple, and it's just very frustrating. And then I get the person all confused too. And yeah, I thought best to leave it alone. Now, what this employee of the Shoppers Drug Mart did is she came back out with a printed form of this and gave him a pen and a clipboard, and he could fill it out by paper. But that sort of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? And you know, it's not a hard app to use, but what a lot of these places that create these kind of forms don't take into consideration is that maybe there's a segment of the demographic of the population that's not as comfortable with technology as maybe those who design the technology are, which is usually younger people. And younger people have basically, depending on their age, have grown up not knowing anything but technology, whereas people in my age bracket and older, well, we've made the transition, right? And some of us made the transition without any problem. Other people are still struggling with it. Like my mother, if she was able to do this kind of thing, she wouldn't be able to. My mother never touched a computer in her life. Says not her cup of tea. She wasn't interested. So there's no way she'd be completely lost. She can barely run the remote control on her television set. So I really felt for these people. In fact, speaking of elderly people, we were the youngest ones in the line for quite a while. The people ahead of us were much older than us, and good for them. They were getting out, they were getting their flu shot, and yes, they definitely should get the flu shot. The only thing is, I felt very sorry for them because a couple of the ladies there obviously looked like they were having some trouble standing, and it wasn't a 10-minute wait. We stood in line for almost an hour before we were allowed into the store. And it must have been a pain for the employee too, because everybody that was coming into the store, she'd stop them and say, okay, are you here for a flu shot? And if they said no, it's okay, go right in. And then for some reason, people want to stand there and give their life story to the employee when she's asked a simple question. Are you here for the flu shot? No, I had my flu shot a week ago. I went down to the Rexall drugstore. There wasn't as much of a lineup, so I got that. And you know, I oftentimes, I've never really had a reaction to it. But after I had it done this time, I felt a little dizzy, so I sat down for a while. Now, I don't know if that was a combination of the effects on my blood pressure pills or what, but while I was sitting there, I did notice a few other people were having some problems getting around too. Now, that could have been anything. It may not have been the flu shot, but are you here for the flu shot? No. Good. Go in the store, shop. I don't want to hear your life story. I never understand that. Why people feel that they have to give a perfect stranger their complete history. But anyways, so there we stood. As I said, it was a nice day, which was good. It was nice and warm in the sun. And so we stood, and we stood, and we stood. The couple in front of us, the ones that were having trouble with the form on their phone, finally decided to leave for whatever reason. Yay, we're moving up in the line. So we finally got inside. Now, you think you're getting close to the prize. Oh yes, and one other thing. I heard somebody say, you know, do they have something about the number of flu shots they were giving out that day? Or would they have enough? You know, well, we don't know. We could run out. Well, okay, if you're controlling the number of people that are going in, you probably know how many bottles of the flu shot you have inside. Can you not do a count? Keep a little running total? Wouldn't that be logical? Because I know how pissed off I would have been if after standing in that line for over an hour, I get up there and they go, oh, sorry, we've run out. There would be an hour of my life I could never get back again, right? Fortunately, that did not happen. But later in the day, it did. Didn't affect us, but it affected other people. So, and how did we know that? Well, because you can go to the store online and they have a little symbol that shows you whether or not the flu shots are there or they've run out. There's technology working for you again. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. Anyways, we get into the store. Another lineup. We have to line up to go and see this young fellow at the pharmacist's desk who is madly typing all kinds of things into a computer. Now, there were some people ahead of us that had the paper form. So I figured, okay, he has to re-enter all of their information in the form on the computer. And I'm assuming that's what he was doing. It's taking him forever. I couldn't see his screen, but I don't know. Was his screen totally different from what the form is? Or did he just not know what he was doing? Well, I think he knew what he was doing, because I think he'd probably done enough of them in that day. Anyway, so we patiently stand in the line and wait for those people to get done. Finally, it's our turn. We have the code. So I'm thinking the whole idea of the code was we'd filled out the form already. It's now in their database, right? They plug in their code just to verify it, and away you go. No. I don't know what he was doing, but first of all, he asked me to verify my address. Okay. My name. Okay. My date of birth. Okay. Then he plugs in, I hold out my phone. It's on my phone. There's the code. He plugs that in. And then computer says no. I don't know what he was doing. What more information he had to put in there? But why did I fill this thing out online that's supposed to make things so much more streamlined and efficient when I go in the store and I might as well just fill out the paper form? Because as far as I could tell, it didn't make a heck of a lot of difference. So finally, we are now in the system. And they tell us just to go over and wait, and the pharmacist will call us, the person giving the needles will call us when they're ready for us. Okay. 1 hour later. All right, so we've already spent almost an hour out in the line outside. We spent a good 15 minutes, 20 minutes waiting to get processed, and now we're waiting for the pharmacist, and that was over an hour. So we spent well over 2 hours trying to get a flu shot. Now, why, you may ask, did it take that long? Okay, we can understand the paperwork. We can understand the number of people. But I don't know what they were doing in the little cubicle. But they were disinfecting the whole thing from top to bottom after each person came out. Okay, bully for them. They've got their Lysol, they've got their rag, they're wiping down everything and whatnot because of COVID. Okay, I get that. And by the way, I've read reports where Lysol is not very effective in disinfecting products against COVID unless you actually spray a surface and leave it sitting before you wipe it for about 10 to 15 minutes or longer. Maybe that's what they were doing, because I started to time how long it was taking for one, when a person finally got called in to go in to get the shot, how long they were in there for, and how long it was before the next person got called in. And it was taking about 10 minutes to give the shot, and it was taking at least another 10 to 15 minutes before the next person would be called in. So yay, you can do 4 people an hour. That's what it boiled down to. So finally, Walter and I got to go in and get our shot. It was painful, not the shot. It was painful watching the pharmacist or whatever she was getting ready to give us a shot. So she gets out a new pair of gloves and she puts these on. And this is how she's putting them on. It's not snap, snap, we're ready. No. So she gets her gloves on. She picks up the syringe, gets it out of the package, the sterile package. She has to take something off, put it on to put the needle on. There's stuff. She'd already pre-filled the syringe with the vaccine, by the way. So, yay, that saved time. And then she comes around and she, does the alcohol thing on your arm. Then she sticks in the needle, takes it out. Then she decides you should have a Band-Aid. Now, I am not going spurt, or gushing any blood. In fact, I don't think there was any. But she decided that I needed a Band-Aid. So she goes into her Band-Aids. She opens up the package. She peels it back, comes over, puts it on, goes back over, puts the used syringe in. I think she'd already done this into, those yellow buckets for, toxic waste. Takes off the gloves, wipes down her little counter, and then it's Walter's turn. And she repeats the whole process all over again. I get the gloves, I get the cleanup and the whole bit, what I don't get is the speed this person worked at. Definitely in a totally different time zone than us. So, yep, like I said, after 2 hours, we got our flu shots. Yay, that's done. Good. So, I don't know why they have made it so inefficient. And they're trying to pretend that they're being efficient. No, they're not. The computer technology obviously is not being used the way it should be. There should be more than one person giving you the flu shot. The drugstore gets paid for every flu shot from the government that they give. They're making money off of this sucker. Wouldn't it behoove them that they should set it up more like an assembly line? Make it more efficient. But of course, they don't. And that's where you're at the whim. When we first started getting flu shots in Ontario 10 years ago, or how many years it's been now, I don't know. They used to do it by clinics. You'd go to a gymnasium somewhere and they'd have chairs all out. You'd sit in the chair, you'd fill out your form, they'd call you up, and they'd have rows upon rows upon rows of, technicians there to give you the shot. Of course, they're not doing clinics anymore. Well, they haven't done clinics in a few years, but this year, of course, they're not doing them because of COVID spread. You can go to your doctor and get it if your doctor has enough doses. My old doctor wouldn't give me a flu shot because he only got so many doses in, and those were already reserved for certain, preferred patients. I mean, I'd been going to him, for well over 25 years. I guess I wasn't preferred enough. My new doctor, well, you might have been able to get one from her, but as I said before, not sure how that works out. Whether she had enough, because apparently doctors' offices were running out of them as well. So, you're at the whim of this. So I'm glad on Saturday I didn't have any other plans. I didn't have to be anywhere. One thing I will say, though, I'm not the only person that was feeling the frustration, but I said nothing because I'm Canadian. And we don't say anything except sorry and thank you. And the other people that were there were just as frustrated. I could see it in their faces and the whole bit. But that's our mentality in this country. We just go, well, whatever. I mean, it eats us up inside, but we just smile and say sorry, thank you. So at least my flu shot is done for this year. Just makes me wonder that when they come out with a vaccine for COVID, how that's going to work. What are they going to do then with that? And I have a feeling, since our governments have pretty much botched this whole crisis anyways, I'm pretty sure they'll botch the vaccine as well. Sour note, I guess. Okay, let's move on. Have I bought anything in the last week? Yes, I have, but I'm not showing it to you because you'll be bored out of your mind. Basically, it's just supplies I need for doing embroidery. I think I mentioned it last week. I was ordering a whole bunch of stuff from my favorite site for getting things like this, monfil.ca, and it all came in, and I'm very happy with it, and I have it, and so that's all I've bought. Now, I have gone online to buy a few other things, and they should be coming later this week, so I will probably talk about those next week. Okay. Book of the week. Where is it? Under here, right in front of my nose. Found this in my lost collection of books. Printmaking Unleashed, more than 50 techniques for expressive mark making. I have something marked in here. I don't know what it is. It must have been when I first got this book. I saw something that looked really interesting. No, I think that's as far as I read in the book. I think that's what it was, a bookmark for that. But you can see it's all about techniques for printmaking. And, printmaking can be making your own stamps or commercial stamps, collaging on paper, painting on paper, inking on paper, whatever. But this has all kinds of different techniques. And it talks about what you should have in your toolbox to do some of these things. It talks about papers that you can use, journals, and some great ideas. Now, looking at this from the point of view of not a crafter, but as a quilter, I see the potential here to play with fabric paints and design possibly some fabrics using some of these techniques. So there's potential there. I have a whole wealth of information that I forgot about. So it's all new to me. I think I'll call that crafters all-timers. You know, we buy things and think it's a great idea at the time, put it away and don't see it for a couple of years and comes back, it's all new to us again. So this book is available on Amazon. I paid $27.99 for it. On Amazon, however, it's gone up a little bit. And this is Amazon.ca. It's gone up to $46.76 Canadian. Yeah. Now, the good news is it can be purchased used for as low as $7.82. And you've heard me talk about used books on Amazon before, and I've always had very good luck with used books on Amazon. So that might be a potential there as well. So, Printmaking Unleashed, and the author is Traci Bautista, I think is how you say this person's name. But I do have a link for it for Amazon.ca in the show notes below. Okay, so that takes us to part 4 of my curio cabinet. Okay, so I've added a few things to this box, and I've been changing a few things as well, which often happens when you're working on a project like this. First of all, you'll notice that I've changed the front of the cabinet. I've added this little bracket right here, which is a locking mechanism, and I did screw down the hinges. Originally, I tried gluing the hinges, but that really didn't work. They weren't going to hold, so I was able to screw them down. Now, I do have one problem screwing them down. They did come through the box in certain places, but because each of these is going to be filled up with something, no one's going to notice that. At least that's my theory. Now, the other thing that I changed on the front of this was, I still got to look at this a little bit. I think there's a little piece hanging over I need to shave down a bit. But if you notice on the front, I've added a couple of more wood bands here, which are basically large popsicle sticks. And before I had one going across the middle and I had a strip of washi tape. Well, I've painted over that. I added 2 more, one to each side, because I needed it a little wider in order to screw down this locking mechanism. Then I added a couple of strips of the scrapbook paper to the center of these, and I may add some other decoration on these as well. I'm not sure yet. Also, I wasn't really happy with the way the cover was looking, so rather than paint over it, I used some scrapbook paper. I darkened the edges with some distress ink and glued it down to the front. Now, I'm not done the front of this cabinet yet. This is just one layer. I'm going to build layers on this to give it a more interesting look. The other thing I did was I decided that inside I was not happy with the color around the edges of the big box and the little doors now. I guess I can call them doors now. So I painted them using Liquitex paint. And I've gone, you can't probably see this in the video, but I've gone around the edges with a black Sharpie just to give it some depth, and I may do that on the inside of each of these little boxes too, on the edges, just running the tip of this down along the edge. It gives it a bit of an aged look, a little bit of a shadow effect when you do that. Why am I using a Sharpie instead of, say, distress ink? Well, because a Sharpie is permanent, it's waterproof, and this is acrylic paint, and acrylic paint has a tendency to make distress inks act as a resist. This, of course, a Sharpie will write on almost anything. So I have that part of it done, but now I'm thinking, I definitely have to fix something here that's catching. But now I'm thinking I'm really not fond of the edges. I put some of that washi tape, I let some of this just go the way it was going to go. I don't like that. I think I'm going to paint this the same color as I did the interior. I'm doing that on all the parts of it, and this back piece I think I'll paint over top of this like I did on the front here, and I think I'm going to add some more scrapbook paper over top of this as well, and of course I'm going to paint this little thing that sits on the top. Now, just something else I'm thinking of as I work through this, there we go, is this is going to sit up on a tripod. It'll be on an angle, and I'm thinking I may put a few things along here to stick up on it. Like a curio cabinet was meant for storage, and probably people would use the top part of it to put things on. I'll have to glue them down, of course, because it's going to be sitting on a tilt like this. I guess you can't see that, but tilt it up like this. So there's more to do. It's an evolution. Who knows? I may change my mind further, and I'm sure I will as I go through this, but we'll see what I get into next. So I've been adding some more things to my curio cabinet. So you can see that I've added some things to the front here. I had some of this, what's called punchinella, which is basically the waste left over when sequins are punched out, and it's nice gold color. So I put that down with some glossy matte medium, so there's a bit of a shine. And I have painted all the sides and the bottom and the top all the same color that I used with the pieces of wood that I put underneath this. On the inside, I did the same on the edges of the cabinet, so I've basically have covered up what I originally did when I started this. Now I've gone around, it'll probably be very difficult to see this on camera, but I've gone around all the little boxes with a black marker, just not very solid, just kind of distressed like, just to give it a little added dimension, which, as I said, you probably can't see this very well on video, but in real life it does give the little boxes some depth. So I've done all of that so far and thought I had fixed this so it shuts properly. May have to do a little bit more filing down. On the back, just a second here, let this close up. Okay, I'm going to have to put something in there to keep that closed, but for now. So I had that band that went across here, and I noticed I've managed to get a little piece of gold on there. That's off. I painted that again. This is the piece that I originally had some washi tape over. I just painted over top of that because I didn't like the washi tape. And I've added these two strips of scrapbook paper which match the same scrapbooking paper that I've used on the front. Now I'm thinking I want to dress these up a little bit more. So I have some of these little label holders. I think they're Tim Holtz elements, and I think I might use those on here. I don't know what I'm going to put in them or over them yet. They do have holes for brads. That's meant to go onto cardstock, but I can't get the brads through this. But I think what I'll do is I'll do full brad, which means that I'll put the brads through here, cut off the little ends that that hold it in. If this was going into cardstock, I'll cut those off, I'll glue it, and it'll look like it has those little brads in it. I also have these corner elements. I thought I had some of Tim Holtz's, but I've used those up on something else. But these are from iCraft. They're wood, so I'm thinking I'll put those in the corners of each of these as well. And I don't know what further things I may do. I'm going to put something in here. You know I love butterflies. I may go to wooden butterflies or something like that. So I'm going to dress that up a little bit more, and then after I get that done, then I think I can start working on the interior of this curio cabinet. I've decided to take these little wooden corner pieces and make them look like metal, and I have this product right here that's called by Art Alchemy. See if I can get it into here so you can see it. My lighting's not very good on today. Okay, right there, called Art Alchemy Metallic. It's a rich copper, it's a wax kind of a thing, and I'm just applying it with my finger to each of these. You don't need a lot of it. You just sort of rub it in, get the edges. And so you see, it gives it a metallic look. So I'm just putting this on all four of these that are going to go into the four corners of the cover of my curio cabinet. And I have it in pewter as well, but I decided just to use the copper because I think copper goes with the background papers that I've already put on the cabinet. And you can let this sit for a couple of minutes. It does dry, and then you can buff it with a dry cloth to give it a bit of a shine. Now you don't want to be afraid of getting your fingers in there with it, because it's really the only way to put it on. You could put it on an edge of a cloth, I suppose, and do it that way, but this works. It just means you've got metallic fingers afterwards, but you can get this off. It will wash off. Okay, I'll just take a cloth here. Let me put this back on. As you can see, this goes a long ways. Now, I've had these for a while, and they haven't dried out in the can. So many of these products do, even though it's in a screw-down, airtight container. I don't know about these. I have had them for a while, and they're still good. I don't really remember when I bought them. So I'm just taking a soft cloth and giving each piece a little bit of a buff. Now I'm noticing that I have a little bit of this in the crevices, so I think I can just take a pokey tool and just clean those out a little bit. You've heard of Goldfinger? Well, I'm Copperfinger. A little fiddly, but the end result's worth it. And now I have what were before wooden pieces, and now they look like metal. Try and say the word. Yes, metal. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to hit them with the heat gun because I can. I don't think you need to, but I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to attach them up to the corners of the lid. So let me come back after I've cleaned up my hands a little bit. So I finished putting elements onto the front cover of this now, and you can see it's kind of a mishmash of bric-a-brac here. I had those big label holders that I put on here, and on top of those I put some Tim Holtz metal words, Curiosities Souvenir. I thought that was appropriate for a curio cabinet. And I also put my faux metallic corner pieces on, and then I added some of these metallic, like they're just plastic but they look like metal, butterflies on here, and some little gears and arrows, and these are buttons actually. They look like an octopus and like a compass. I just cut off the shank and layered those on, and I did try to layer these so that there's a dimensional element to this. And then the problem that I have with keeping this latch open, but you want something, or keeping it closed so it won't flip open when it's sitting on its stand, I found this decorative paper clip, and it just slides. It's all in sort of a brass color, so it keeps with the color scheme going on the cover here, and it just drops right in just like that. So really easy. And I tied a key on here as well, and there's other keys laying around because it's a locked curio cabinet. So I'm kind of pleased with the way the cover has turned out. It looks vintage, it looks old, and of course you know that there are several layers of product on here as I kept changing my mind. So this isn't quite dry yet, so I'm letting it dry. And by the way, I use Gorilla Glue in both the gel form and the regular form to put all these things down because they are heavy. Some of them are metal. So I want them to stick, and Gorilla Glue is the best thing for that, I have found. So as I said, this is still a little bit wet. I'm going to let it dry, and then I think I'm going to turn my attention to the inside of the cabinet. So what's been happening in the past week? Well, I talked to my mother. She did her usual, didn't hang up the phone, busy signal. Ended up finally getting a hold of her after I called the desk on her floor and explained to them that I was trying to get a hold of my mother. Her phone was off the hook. Could you put it on the hook? And I asked them if they could call me, like dial it for my mother. Yeah, I never got an answer to that. And I talked a little about this on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday. Kind of pisses me off a little bit with that. I know they're very, very busy there, and I do not like to call over there unless it's an absolute necessity. But I never got a call back because it went to voicemail. I never got a call back, nothing. But I did finally get a hold of my mother, and she's fine. And yeah, nothing there to say, so we'll move on. We had our first Janome class. I talked about that last week. It's a virtual class. We paid $10 for this. In this particular class is using Artistic Digitizer, which is the program that I use to, design my own embroidery files for my machine. It's a very expensive program. It cost me over $1,000 for the program. So, $10 for 3 classes sounds good. I was a little worried, as you know, that they might be trying to sell me more products and that would be more of a sales job than it would be a learning opportunity, but I was pleasantly surprised. It was not a sales job. It was definitely a learning opportunity. The lady who was running it did a very good job, although the only criticism I have of her is, don't ask us questions. She was asking things like, now, class, if you were going to do this, how would you do it? And she got no answers. It was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off in that segment with the teacher, the history teacher, anyone, anybody, anyone, kind of a deal. I felt sorry for her when she asked a question, so I answered a couple of them. But, really, this is something people just want to be shown how to do something. They don't want to sit there and be questioned about how to do it. Yes, in a classroom setting, that might be a good strategy. But for this kind of thing, I don't think so. It's just wasting time. But that's a very minor criticism of how it was being taught. And so, yeah, if that's the only thing I have to complain about, and that is the only thing I have to complain about, it's not really a complaint at all. So it was good. I've learned something. I'm looking forward to this week's class. Most of the stuff she talked about in the first class, Walter and I already knew about, although we did pick up a couple of tips that we didn't know, and that's good. Now the next class is doing some things that sounds like they are things that we're interested in but we've never done, so that'll be good. So that's coming up. And this, yeah, and what else? Or that is coming up, the second part, but that's what we did the first part. And what else did we do last week? Nothing. I'm trying to think. Did we go anywhere? I didn't go over to Ultimate Sewing. We didn't go out, of course, except to get the flu shot. Yeah, that was the end of the week. So nothing much there. So that takes us to what's coming up. Okay, this week is busy. Virtually busy. Now I'll tell you what I mean by that. Okay, tonight I have a virtual guild meeting at 7 o'clock. We do have a guest speaker virtually, and it happens to be a person that I recommended, which is Kim Jamieson-Hurst, who is the owner and operator of the Quilter's Way, the membership group that I belong to online for quilters. And she's going to be talking about free motion quilting tonight, and that'll be interesting. I don't think it'll be anything I don't know already because of things I've done with her on the Quilter's Way, but I think many of the people in our guild are going to get a lot out of it because she's a very good presenter and a very good instructor. So that's tonight. We have the Janome class part 2 on Wednesday, virtual as well. And the weekend is filled with Zoom. In fact, I have conflicting scheduled items happening. Friday night, starting at 7 o'clock, the Quilter's Way, which I already mentioned, is having a weekend virtual retreat for quilters. Now, we've done one of these before back in the spring. So we're having another one. So they're always interesting. They're fun. You're not really on Zoom for the entire time. I think Friday night's supposed to run from about 7 to 10 o'clock or something like that. I think you have check-in times. There's demos at certain things. So Kim will give us a schedule or later this week, I am sure, to let us know how that all works out. So that's great. But that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, Saturday, I have that, and we have been invited, Walter and I, by another YouTube channel to participate in a virtual bingo game. It's sort of celebrity bingo. The people that invited us are two guys who run the YouTube channel Fiber Hustle, Chip and Aaron. We're followers of their YouTube channel. The one guy, Aaron, I believe, is a sewer or a knitter, and Chip is a quilter. And I love their YouTube channel. I did review it a few weeks ago as well here on my vlog. But they asked for people to, if you're interested in doing the bingo online, they've run these several times before, to let them know. So I did, way back, about a month ago, and they said they would send us all the stuff for it, and that'd be great. So they did. They sent us the official invitation the other day, and we're supposed to be getting this week the bingo materials. And because this one comes just a week before Halloween, they are asking people if they wish to sort of dress up. So we are. We're going to be dressed up from the head up, and we have a couple of things that we can use for that. So it's going to be fun. Now that's going to be at 4 o'clock our time. It's 1 o'clock their time because they're out in Washington State. So they're 3 hours behind us. So Walter and I had a little argument about that. He said to me, well, it's going to be earlier in the morning. And I went, no, we're 3 hours ahead of Pacific time, Eastern. And usually when Walter says something is this way, he's right. And I stand to be corrected. Well, I said, no, I know for sure. My brother lives out in Vancouver. He's 3 hours behind us, okay? We're 3 hours ahead of them. And I also know with the Quilter's Way that usually when we do our live Zooms every other week, they are at 9 o'clock Calgary time, because that's where Quilter's Way is located. So it's 11 o'clock our time, because Calgary's 2 hours. They're mountain time. Different from us. So Walter looked it up, and yes, I was right. I was right. Nah. Told you so. Yeah. I had to bask in that little bit of glory I had for that few seconds. But I'm sure that'll be undercut by something else I'll say, and he'll find me wrong. So, such is life. Anyways, so I'm really kind of excited about that. Well, one, I'm thrilled that we got invited. Doesn't take much to thrill me, but it looks like fun because I've seen some, little clips from previous ones they've done. So anyways, that's going to be interesting. But in the meantime, there's a retreat going on. So I'm going to be popping around on Zoom on Saturday for a while. Then it gets hairier on Sunday. The retreat is still going on Sunday. We have our live, which will definitely be on Sunday. The live is number one priority for us in this case. And then my guild is having a sew day the whole day on Sunday. Well, actually, I think it starts at about 12 afternoon and runs until about 3. So I will just have to pop into several things and see how this all works out. What did we do without Zoom before? Actually, there's probably going to be a new phrase for this, Zoom fatigue or something, because that's the way I think I'm going to feel after this weekend's over. But, it's something to do, isn't it? So that's great. Okay, so what else do I have to tell you? Anything? I don't think so. So I am, after this is done here, I am going to do an idiot quilter. I'm going to talk a little bit, because I've had some questions, about stabilizers for machine embroidery. So I'm going to talk about what I know about them and my pitfalls and my successes with all those things, and I have some things to show people as well. That will probably go up later today, depending on how soon I get it done. So that's on the books today. And yeah, and I hope you'll be able to tune into that too as well. So I hope you have a good week. And as I always say, stay well, stay healthy, stay safe, stay healthy, stay in. Get it right. And we'll see you next week. And don't forget about Stephen and Walter Live, 4 o'clock this coming Sunday. See you then. Bye-bye.